So the Coleman CT200U-EX drum brake is just not designed to stop the bike very well if you're going over 20 or 30 miles an hour. So I added an MB200 rear disc brake, and I had to stretch the frame, weld a mount, but it actually fit on there pretty well, and it stops the bike a lot better. So now, to add even more braking power to this bike, I'm gonna add an MB200 front disc brake. I picked up this MB200 front disc brake kit from Go Power Sports. So it comes with the wheel and the disc already installed. Then on your hardware, your collars and your brackets and your washers and bolts and your handle and the caliper. So I'm going to install the MB200 front disc brake kit on the CT200U-EX, and we'll see what kind of modifications I have to do to get this kit installed. Let's pull this front wheel off of here. So now I will pop this tire off of here and mount it on that wheel. Yeah, these big wheels are pretty easy to swap. So we have the Coleman wheel, then you have the MB200 wheel. So if you look at these two wheels, the width is identical and then the spacing is exactly the same. So this should be a pretty easy swap. So I have to make sure my rotation's correct because these wheels are rotational, the tires are rotational. So I need the disc on this side. Make sure an easy wheel install. Usually pop right on there with that stuff. Now I use my 303 to put the wheel on, and what's nice about this stuff is it's not petroleum based, so it's good for rubber, and there's no chance of rusting the wheel like using water to mount the wheels. Alright, so let's pop this wheel back on here. So it looks like everything fits exactly the same as the Coleman wheel. Now, I need to throw this bracket on here. So I'll leave everything loose right now. Alright, so I got that on there. So now I will throw this brake handle on here real quick. Run this caliper through here. So now I'll throw this collar on here, and it looks about the right size. I guess we'll find out. So let me take this apart and throw those pads in here. Make sure I leave those washers in there too, because I definitely don't want to collapse that fork. Clean this out. Clean this off to make sure those pads stick. Pad on the other collar, or the other side. So this is a 1.5 inch. So I wonder what size these forks are. So the collar is 1.5 inches. Let's see what this is. Okay, so 1.4, almost 1.5. So with the pads, that's pretty close. So this kit's gonna be like a direct bolt on it. So I got the pads on there. So now I will bolt this onto the fork here. Make sure I don't forget my washers. I'll leave this on here loose at first, so I get that caliper on there. So now I'll see if this caliper will go on here. It looks like it fits on there, but one thing it might need is some more space between here, or another spacer, because it only comes with 2 spacers, and it looks pretty wide right there. I will throw these 2 spacers on here that come with the kit, and then 3 washers behind here. Put my bolts in here. See, I need a few washers right there. So there we go. So that's a lot better. So now I'll put 3 on the bottom. So there we go. So that makes everything pretty much straight. Alright, so now I'll add 1 washer on each bolt right here, and then add the caliper. Because I need 1 washer behind here to make these spacers a little bit thicker, then everything will line up. Let's see, maybe I won't. We'll see here. Let me tighten this down and find out. Yeah, it still rolls nice and free, so I think that'll work. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so that'll work. I think that right there. So the only thing I had to do to make it fit on a Coleman was add 3 washers behind the 2 spacers, and then everything else works out. So let me tighten everything up, tighten all this stuff up, and we'll see if it still rolls free. Okay, yeah, that'll work. That was a pretty easy install, actually. So the kit comes with a couple lock washers, but since I added the washers behind here, I want to make sure I get enough bite behind there into the caliper. So I'm just going to add some thread locker on here instead of using the lock washers that come with the kit, because it'll pull the bolt out farther. Yeah, and that'll keep the that'll still give me enough bite into the caliper right there without the bolts backing out. Okay, put the wheel on here. So now I use one of my clips here from my box that I got at Harbor Freight. Maybe use one of these on there. So there we go. MB200 brake on the Coleman bike. So now I'll run it around and test it out, and we'll see if it stops. It's kind of weird stopping with a front brake on a CT200U-EX. Oh yeah, this thing stops awesome now. The thing stops on a dime. Yeah, this thing stops awesome now. So the MB200 brake kit on the Coleman CT200U-EX works awesome. It's basically a bolt-on kit. I only had to add a couple washers. It is kind of weird stopping a Coleman bike with the front brake.